Well, hi there. And yes, this is a little bit of a different format than in the past. I have been untethered from the headset, and also I'm in a different room. There is a bit of an echo that's being picked up by the microphone. I hope I'm still able to be heard loud and clear enough. I wanted to talk a little bit. Well, initially, I wanted to talk about reflections of all the content I've done in the past and its significance and so on and so forth. And then I realized, well, just let the content sit for its own sake. But I can say that I got into this MBTI INFP content because when I started, it seemed like there wasn't a lot of content by INFPs for INFPs. Now we have a lot of INFP content creators, at least a half dozen, probably more, who are regularly giving advice, talking about the experience, having discussions, and who knows what else. So with almost daily new videos dropping, I don't feel like I'm all that necessary, or I don't feel all that compelled anymore to carry the flag. So I may back up a little bit or back off a little bit from the MBTI content I've been doing. I've also seen another potential gap that I might address at some point, but I'm at experimental phases with video and ideas at the moment, so there really isn't anything to talk about yet, and there may never be. There probably will never be. But I'm having fun thinking about the possibilities, and that's for its own sake, and that's kind of where I'm at. But what I wanted to talk about today is completely different. It's for those of us living in the northern hemisphere and in the further northern climes. We are now seeing the first signs of spring. The ones before the leaves start coming out and that the real signs of spring start being seen. Some of the earliest signs that we have here in the leafy suburbs are first outside of our house. We have mining bees or miner bees here in the States. And they are a particular kind of American ground bee that comes up very early in the season. They dig tunnels out of the ground and swarm in the early spring. And even though they swarm together, they're actually solitary bees. So it's sort of an amusing combination, that alone but together. They're also absolutely beautiful. If you ever get the chance to bump into one or more, they're not dangerous. They don't sting unless they absolutely had to. I've never been stung by one. But one of the things that does happen is that my office is up on the second floor. That's where I do most of my recordings. And inevitably, when we have a warm day, I open up my storm window. The bug screens aren't in yet. And I'll have one or more of these miner bees that fly in and stop off on the little window shelf where they sit in the shade and they recover from the flight. So I let them sit for a while, get their strength back, and then eventually when it's time for them to go, I'll grab a little piece of paper and kind of get it underneath and get them back outside, and they'll fly off and be on their way. And it's a wonderful and touching and important recurring thing. It's almost like a promise that spring is coming, that each year is kept, and it is just wonderful to see them. Two other signs that I wanted to point out for those of you who may see them, even though it's nothing special per se, it is special because it is something that happens every season. And one is, if you're familiar with callery pears, they're often planted in cities, they're hardy street trees. They're not considered any kind of a special kind of wood or anything that's high value, but they are high value because they are, when they bloom early in the spring, they're beautiful. And we have a series of them that are in our adjacent downtown area, and going through it, it's just, again, so nice to see a promise of spring. And then lastly, for those of you familiar with this particular sound, the sound of spring peepers. We don't have them this close into the city, but I'd had the good luck in between lots of work to get out to an acquaintance in the country who owns a house adjacent to a swamp. And there the spring peepers were just absolutely in full-throated bloom. And it is just the most glorious sound if you grew up with it. And it is another promise that spring is coming. It's just these wonderful signs are all sort of this, the timing between the thaws and then the waiting for the leaves to come. There are the star magnolias, now the regular magnolias, and then all of these signs of the insect and animal life coming back to life. I won't count the raccoon that goes after our chicken carcasses once in a while, but other than that, it's just very happy things to see, to realize that we are finally on our way. You may also have, if you're coming toward spring in your home climate, some stories of the things that are particular to your area. And if you do have something that makes you especially nostalgic about the changing of the seasons, no matter where you may be, please feel free to share in the comments. It would be interesting to hear what other people, what stirs other people's feelings and heralds for them a change in the season. So with that, I'll say bye for now.